There are some kinds of moves that solo runners absolutely hate to use in their challenges. Obviously, we have things like two-turn moves, wrapping moves, moves that have low accuracy, one-hit KO moves. I think I could go on and on. At the end of the day, Gen 1 has such shallow movesets that there are really only about 5 or 6 moves that you actually want to use late game in a challenge. But with all of these other moves available that nobody ever uses, it kind of makes me wonder, how good are these moves actually? Could we be in a situation where we're underselling an entire class of moves just because of a bias? Or are they really as bad as we think they are? Well, I want to do a few runs in order to test this out. And today we're going to start off with those two-turn moves. Moves like Solar Beam, Skull Bash, Sky Attack, and Razor Wind, where you have to charge up for a turn, leaving you completely exposed to damage from your opponents. But with that being said though, outside of Razor Wind, all of these moves do have decent attack power, so theoretically, on a good Pokemon, they should be able to knock opponents out. And in order to test this in as unbiased a way as possible, I'm going to run today with a Mew. Mew, of course, has balanced stats all the way across the board with 100 attack, defense, special, speed, and HP, meaning that unlike any other Pokemon that we could test this with, it's never going to have a bias to use one move over the other outside of our opponent's typing and our opponent's stats. And this should give us a good idea of just how good or bad these moves actually are. So place a prediction down below. Do you think that this is going to be a tough run, or do you think this is actually going to be pretty easy given the power of our moves? Well, let's get into it and find out. So as we make our way outside of Pallet Town, for once Professor Oak is gonna catch a Mew that's actually worth doing some research on, because normal Mew runs are just about using super strong moves at the end of the game, but here we actually have a little bit of a disadvantage. Our Mew is kind of behaving like a slack off, where it's just gonna take a turn off before it attacks every time, and we'll have to see how bad it turns out to be. So our Truant Mew is coming in at level 5 with Sky Attack, Solar Beam, Skull Bash, and Razor Wind. And we have to see if we can get through with only this moveset. There will be no move changes in this entire run. So let's get into the Rival 1 fight and see how it goes. The only move we have PP in is Sky Attack. It's just the way that I put it in. But by glowing, we're gonna get an easy 2-hit KO on the Eevee because Sky Attack is a 140 base power move. And don't worry, after that first fight, we get a heal and the PP situation is sorted out and we can move on in the game. Now, it's worth noting that not all of these two-turn moves are created equal, especially when we talk about later generations. Of course, Sunny Day makes it so that you can simply hit every turn with Solar Beam. Skull Bash and Razor Wind got buffed. Razor Wind by becoming a high critical hit chance move, and Skull Bash by also raising your defense when you set up. But really, these moves in Gen 1 have no secondary abilities. There is no defense boost from Skull Bash. There is no extra critical hit chance from Razor Wind. They're just standard damage dealing moves that take a charging turn. It's also worth noting that I did not use Fly or Dig here, because Fly and Dig are actually pretty special in that they give you an invulnerable turn, where you can only be hit by swift or return damage from Bide while you are underground or flying high in the sky. So those moves don't really fall into this category because of the fact that they actually have pretty good usefulness in a solo challenge. Now I'm going to be running on 0 DVs and I'm going to be running as close to minimum battles as I can, but we're going to judge these moves based on speed and reset. So I'm not just going to sit here and reset a bunch on a fight. If I think it's tough, I'm just going to go gain extra levels until I can get through it. So here we have to take on this bug catcher at the end of Viridian Forest, where we can just go for Sky Attack and get an easy 1-hit KO. We get to level 8, and just like that, we are ready to move on to Brock. Now, I think beating Brock is logical with this moveset. We've got Solar Beam, which is super effective against both of his Pokemon. I think we can survive at least a couple hits from them without too much worry, so let's just see if it actually works. So Brock, of course, leads off with Geodude. We're just going to go Solar Beam and get the easy 1-hit KO. Out next comes Onix. We are faster. We set up the Solar Beam as it goes for Bind, but yet again, a one-hitter once we actually move. Brock was never in question. 3 minutes 33 seconds to beat him with no resets so far. And honestly, that makes a lot of sense. Like, Brock isn't really going to be tough for a Pokemon running a move as strong as Solar Beam here, unless he could knock you out within like 2 or 3 turns with his moves. Other than that, you're going to get through that fight just fine when you have a strong special move like this. And I think most of these sets that I'm going to run are going to have a move that's pretty good for Brock, so Brock shouldn't be a major wall in any of these, with the exception of one, but I'll get into that later. But for now, let's just make our way through this next section where we've got enough coverage and enough damage output that I think we're going to just destroy all of these trainers on Route 3 and getting into Mount Moon, but we'll just have to see. Maybe at some point we run into a wall. And now, just to be consistent in these, I am going to stay on minimum battles as much as possible, and I'm only going to start taking additional battles once I run into a situation where I actually get beaten by an opponent. But once we get beaten, as long as it doesn't look like we got really bad luck with, say, like a Gen 1 miss or something, we're not going to sit and reset. We're going to go and take extra battles until that fight becomes reasonably consistent with the moveset that we're stuck using. But with that being said, at this point, these 2-turn moves are actually looking really good. The only issue is just that they take 2 turns to use. So yes, we're taking a little bit of damage. Yes, we have to heal up a little bit more. If you were doing a speed run, this would obviously slow you down quite a bit, but really they're not too bad at this point in the game, at least. And we easily make it to the Super Nerd at the end of Mount Moon, where I think the strategy is just to go Sky Attack. It is our strongest move since it's 140 base power, and we really don't want to use Razor Wind as much as possible because of the fact that that move is stuck with not only weaker power, but also a 75% accuracy, whereas literally every other move is 100% accurate, so barring a Gen 1 miss, they will hit. We easily win against the Super Nerd though, allowing us to get through that fight, pick up Lord Dome, and now let's just heal up very quickly and take on Jesse and James. So Jesse and James lead off with the Ekans. I'm going to go Sky Attack here. He goes Leer, so that's an easy victory right there. Meowth, we're going to stick with Sky Attack since it is the strongest move. We get that one down in a single hit. And for the Coughing, it goes Smog and poisons us. But one Sky Attack does the job, at least with a crit, so we managed to get through. And now we've made it to Cerulean City, where we could go and fight against Misty immediately. Solar Beam would be super effective, but she does hit pretty hard, so I don't think that would be a smart decision. Let's make our way up north first. Let's see if we can beat rival number 2. So against rival number 2, Spearow, I'm just going to go for the Sky Attack. We get a Gen 1 miss with that move, and then we get Growled, lowering our attack stat, which is pretty terrible. We do manage to knock it out in 2 hits, but with those attack drops, we're in kind of tough shape. And now we get a Sand Attack from the Sandshrew. The Solar Beam does one-shot it, and I think we're going Solar Beam the rest of the way due to those attack drops. Here we one-shot the Rattata after a quick attack, and now Eevee is sand attacking us, which is terrible, meaning that we're not able to hit our moves. Finally, we do hit the Solar Beam, but it's not a one-hit KO, and we lose the first attempt against the rival. Still, we got a Gen 1 miss there with Sky Attack, so this is a situation where I will reset to try this fight again. This time, we just get one Leer from the Spearow and then immediately knock it out, so we're looking much better. Scratch is also much better there from the Sandshrew. We can stick with the Solar Beam here on the Rattata, knocking it out in 1, and now the Eevee goes Tail Whip, meaning that we should just take 2 hits to knock this Pokemon out. Sure enough, we take it down on the second attempt. But we have officially taken a reset so far in this challenge, in spite of the fact that our moves are really strong. Still, I'm just going to make my way quickly up to Billy Boy because I don't expect anything in this section to be all that hard, and then we'll make our way down to Misty in her gym. And sure enough, we make it through all the trainers on the way up to Billy Boy's house with no issues. Bill has been combining himself with different Pokemon and testing out moves as well, and he has decided that our experiment with 2-turn moves is pretty interesting, so he's just going to give us that as a ticket and send us on down to fight against the trainers for him so that he can learn more about these movesets. And here I'll take a very quick battle against the Innocent Bystander since he's just right here. We have a good move in Sky Attack for this Machop, and we should also be able to take down Drowsy pretty easily given that we're a Psychic type. It's not like it's going to do anything to us. And with that, we can now move on to Misty's gym. So Misty attempt number 1, we're coming in basically just using Solar Beam again. She misses the first tackle with Staryu and we one-shot that Pokemon. Starmie is out next. It goes Bubble Beam, which does pretty decent damage, and Solar Beam is not a one-hitter here. I think we can just finish it off with a Skull Bash though, so that's what I'm going to do. We get the victory on the first attempt, coming in at level 23. So 14 minutes 51 seconds to get through Misty after going up to Billy Boy's house, and 1 reset so far due to that Gen 1 miss against the rival. Really, we're not doing too bad. The only issue is time, and it's just because these 2-turn moves take twice as long to knock opponents out. But outside of that, we're doing pretty decently up to this point in the game. So with that done, I'm just going to make my way down to rival number 3. I don't expect the randos on the way to Vermilion to really cause any trouble for us, and we're just going to stick on minimum battles at this point because I don't really see any challenge that justifies starting the level grind. But here we're always just in this kind of weird situation where sometimes we want to use Skull Bash because of the 100% accuracy, sometimes we want to use Sky Attack because it's stronger, and I don't have a damage calculator running here. This is something that people have mentioned in other runs, like, why didn't you use this move when clearly it would have gotten a better range? Well, I don't actually know that when I'm running on 0 DVs, and because we don't use damage calculators in any of our runs here, we just have to test it to find out whether or not it works that way or not. There are situations where you would think that you're getting it, but it's actually a range, or it turns out that one move is actually legitimately better than the other. So here against the rival, I am going to lead off with Sky Attack against the Spearow. Let's just knock it out in a single hit. Rattata, I will go for the Solar Beam since it has fairly low special. Let's do the same thing here against the Sandshrew. It Sand attacks us, which we don't like. Now on Eevee, defense is technically its lower stat, so let's go for Sky Attack. Unfortunately, we miss and get growled, so now I'm just going Solar Beam the rest of the way, and we're going to need 2 Solar Beams to hit to knock this one out. It's Sand attacking like crazy, but we finally take it down. So yeah, the rival, not really an issue. And again, we've only had the 1 reset on him in the first attempt due to the miss from Sky Attack. Outside of that, I think that we're doing perfectly fine here in this run so far. And now I will go ahead and just fight against Lieutenant Surge. I think I have strong enough moves to get through that. We don't need Sky Attack. I know I've already used the PP up in that move. So it's really just a question of whether or not we do enough damage with Skull Bash here in order to get through, or are we going to really struggle in this fight. So first up against the Raichu, we know that Thunderbolt, Mega Punch, Mega Kick will do decent damage to us since we're a little under leveled. But let's just go for this Skull Bash. He misses a Mega Kick. We did about half with the Skull Bash here, so we just need another turn, and sure enough, he uses an X speed, allowing us to knock him out. 18 minutes, 45 seconds, still only 1 reset on Rival 2, really not doing too bad. And with that, we can make our way back up to Cerulean City. We'll just get a bicycle and make our way through the rock tunnel, where yet again, I don't see any real issues with any of these trainers, but if I run into any walls, I will just kind of comment on them and let you know. And with that, we can make our way to the mid game, where we should have some pretty easy wins against the Rockets and against some of those trainers inside of the Pokemon Tower, and maybe we cruise through the mid game with Erika and Koga. And without any issues, we make it to the self-destruct hiker here. Now, 2-turn moves do mean that he could use self-destruct on us, which could actually make this fight hard. Fortunately, he just goes defense curl there. He's just going to be random with all of his moves, and tackle from the Graveler guarantees that we get the victory on the first attempt. No issues against the self-destruct hiker, and we can move on and make our way out of the rock tunnel. But now in Celadon City, I'm actually going to take on the Rocket hideout first, and I'm going to put off Erika for a minute because Erika presents one issue for us in status. Her status moves could end up really costing us when we have to charge up for an entire turn. There's a reasonable chance that she could end up beating us just because of those extra turns in battle. Now, we are also getting PP ups at this point in the game, and I'm just going to use these on Sky Attack since it has the least amount of PP of all of my moves. And since Sky Attack is technically my strongest damage dealing move when I need to use a physical attack against an opponent. And now, just for consistency in these runs, I'm also going to put off using rare candies in these runs, and I'm not going to use any vitamins because I don't want to have the extra variable of whether I should boost my special or my attack for a particular Pokemon. We're going to keep these runs testing these different movesets as apples to apples as we possibly can, including the main routing through the game, though in some cases, if it's clear that we should take on Erika immediately, we will. In this case, I think it's worth putting her off. So let's get to Jesse and James at the bottom of the Rocket hideout. I'm just going to go Sky Attack here on Coughing. It is not a one-hitter. We're going to take 2 hits to knock that Pokemon out. I think I can go Solar Beam on Meowth just because it doesn't have great special. And then let's go back to Sky Attack here on the Ekans, knocking it out in a single hit. Now we can move on to Giovanni, where he's got 2 Rock-type Pokemon. I think Solar Beam is the play. Let's just see how this goes. So I lead off with Solar Beam against Onix as it goes Rage. That's a nice easy one-hitter. Rhyhorn's out next. He guard specs, giving us a free win. And now I think we need to go for the Sky Attack on the Persian. It's not quite a one-hitter though, so I'm going to go with the Skull Bash to guarantee the KO on the next turn. So we do manage to beat Giovanni just fine, no issues up to this point. So let's get out of here. Let's make our way back to Lavender and fight against our rival. So rival for first attempt, I think we again just go Sky Attack here on the Fearow. We get a nice easy one-hitter. Now I think Solar Beam might be the play here on the Magnemite. It doesn't quite get the one-hitter, but I don't think either move would have one-shot that Pokemon. Still, we managed to get through just fine. Shelter, clearly we go Solar Beam to get the one-hit KO. Sandshrew gets more of the same action, though it does Sand Attack us, which is terrible. We take 2 Solar Beams to knock that Pokemon out, and now Eevee is going Growl, so Solar Beam is the play to try to knock this Pokemon out. Fortunately, we don't miss, so we managed to get through. So now we can make our way through the rest of the tower. Sky Attack, being that it can hit ghosts, is basically our best move here against the Ghastlies. And honestly, it should just be a matter of not getting too many Nightshades here. Now, Confusion does kind of affect things here. We really have to hope not to hit ourselves too many times, but it is possible to get through these Pokemon with no issues. So let's take on Ghosty Mama real quick, where I think the only strategy is to go for this Solar Beam and hope that it is a one-hitter on this Pokemon. She goes Headbutt, but it's not nearly enough to take us down. And with that, we can go straight up to Jesse and James, and let's see if we can manage to beat them. So on the Meowth, I'm just going to stick with the Solar Beam strat. I want to save my stronger moves for the next 2 Pokemon. We took 1 Screech, which is pretty bad. Now a Leer from the Arbok. We are getting badge boosts in attack, but we're going to take more physical damage. And it looks like Weezing is a 2-hit KO here with Sky Attack. Still, we do manage to win on the first attempt, and we can save Mr. Fuji. And now with that done, I'm actually going to make my way down to Koga because of the fact that Sky Attack is super effective against his entire team, for 1. And for 2, we should have a decent chance against the Psychic types there, given the fact that our Mew is also a Psychic type and will resist their moves. And just to keep my routing standard, I will be picking up the Max Elixir and the PP Up on this route, as well as the Rare Candy. And I'm also planning to go to the Power Plant with all of these Pokemon to get another PP Up later on, just because I think that by keeping the routing the same, we'll eliminate that as a potential bias between the different runs. So here, let's just make it into the gym and see how we do against these jugglers and against Koga himself. And while Sky Attack does have a 10% chance to miss, when it does hit against these Psychic types, we're just one-shotting them because it's a 140 base power physical move. So I think the only real question is whether or not Koga is going to be trolly in this one. But here against Koga, I'm actually going to use a little bit of a different strategy. You see, in the last battle, I got poisoned by the Hypno, but I can actually use this to my advantage to stop Koga from using the moves Sleep Powder and Toxic on me. And as long as I can survive enough turns, I should be able to knock his Pokemon out with Sky Attack, but let's see how this actually goes. So here against Koga, we're going to go for Sky Attack, and we get an easy one-hitter on the first Venonat. Second Venonat only knows Psychic, Psybeam, and Supersonic that it can affect us with. We get an easy one-hitter there. The third Venonat will go Double Edge against us and does massive damage with a crit. So basically we need 2 X attacks from the Venomoth to get through in that one. I'm not sure if the crit really affected things. Maybe we would only need 1 X attack if we did not get that crit. I'm going to try this one more time just to see that range. So this time we're back to the third Venonat. It does not get a critical hit, so we're still on about half health going to the final Venomoth. It hits the leech life twice, but we survive. Sky Attack gets the one-hitter with a crit. So it took 36 minutes, but we did manage to get through Koga at this point without any optional battles. A couple of those resets were just due to the fact that I didn't recover PP in Sky Attack. So realistically, we can knock 2 of those resets off here. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. So realistically, we're actually looking at 3 resets so far in this challenge. But now I expect Blaine to be reasonably hard, so I'm going to go back and take on Erika and try to take on rival number 5. But if he's not working out, then we will test Blaine before we start getting some optional battles here. Now, fortunately, in Erika's gym, there's only one required trainer before the gym leader. That's this beauty right here who has a single execute. This should be an easy KO, so let's make our way straight to Erika herself. So Erika attempt number 1, I'm just going Sky Attack on Tangela, goes for Bind, but then we one-shot it. Out next is the Weeping Bell. It goes for Sleep Powder and then into Razor Leaf. We're really hoping that we can wake up here and actually hit our move. Sleep could be the killer in this one. We do manage to knock it out and level up to level 37, and we get a Stun Spore miss from Gloom, allowing us to win the first attempt, but that was close. That was a little bit lucky there. 38 minutes, 53 seconds to get through. 3 resets so far in this challenge. Definitely not great. You could obviously beat the game faster than this with a lot of Pokemon, but it's not terrible when you're looking at resets. And I'm pretty sure that this is going to be a decent time at this point. I mean, it's not like we're struggling that badly anywhere. Still, let's make our way to rival number 5 and see how he goes, because this is usually where the game's difficulty really ramps up. I found in a lot of minimum battles runs that the real walls come in basically once you get to rival 5 and once you get to Blaine. Some Pokemon just completely hit a wall and can't progress beyond that. So let's just go ahead and try the rival. We have a decent enough set of moves that in theory we should be able to get through. I'm of course going to go Solar Beam on the first Sand Slash as it goes Swift. We get the one hitter after that. Cloyster comes out, another Solar Beam here as it goes Aurora Beam. We knock it out in a single hit. Magneton we don't really have anything great for, but it's less defensive than it has special. So I'm going to go Skull Bash here as it goes Sonic Boom. Looks like we did slightly less than half there and we get confused. So sure enough, this is a 3-hit KO. He does Potion there, however, which does allow us to at least knock it out a little quicker. Sky Attack takes down the Kadabra. I'm going to stick with Sky Attack here on Flareon. It gets me in the Fire Spin though, and then knocks me out on the next turn. So that was pretty close. We might still be able to get through this with slightly better luck, but it's not looking super consistent, especially that 3-hit KO range there on the Magneton makes me think that we might need to take more battles before this one is really reasonable. So instead, let's go check on Blaney Boy. Let's just see how the situation looks down south, and then we'll determine from there whether or not we need to actually start level grinding. And again, I'm just going to try to keep these rules consistent across all of these Pokemon so that we don't have a situation where I go to level grinding too soon with one and put off level grinding too long with another. If I don't see a really clear, obvious way that I'm going to win the fight, I'm simply going to go level grind in order to try to make it a little more consistent. Because honestly, I don't think I'm actually going to beat the game on minimum battles with this moveset. I think that it's just going to be a question of how close I can get and of course how many resets I end up having. And time is kind of a factor here, because one of the reasons that these moves are hated is because they are slow. But still, let's get up into Blaney Boy's gym here, where we should be basically fine to get through this quiz and just take on the gym leader himself. And of course, the one move we wish we had was Tombstoner. Even with its low accuracy, it would guarantee a 100% chance of victory here, but Blaine could theoretically be possible. We'll just have to see how bad he is in this run. So Blaine attempt number 1, I think the strategy is to go Sky Attack on the Ninetales. It confuses us with Confuse Ray. We hit ourselves in confusion, which is pretty bad. And then Flamethrower does massive damage. That doesn't look reasonable at all. So I'm simply going to get out of here. Let's go gain some additional levels. Fortunately, we have tons of trainers to fight here inside of Silphco, so I'm just going to take on the best ones that I can think of and gain a couple levels. Let's at least get to level 38 and a damage rounding threshold to try the rival again. So I just want to try this once, one level higher at level 38 against the rival. Since we were getting that 3-hit KO range on that Magneton, maybe now it's a 2-hit KO range. This time we get Slash from the first Sand Slash though, which is pretty bad, and that could already mean that this run is basically over, and it does not look like we quite did half damage here to the Magneton, so we're simply going down on this attempt. And since Koga didn't look very close either, I'm just going to take a bunch of battles now. Let's get up to like level 40, maybe level 43 to try these ones again. In general, when I am level grinding, I will be using damage rounding thresholds in order to determine how high of a level to grind to. Of course, levels that end in 0, 3, 5, or 8 are the levels that we have the best chance to do more damage at. Here, we even lose to this Golbat due to bad confusion luck. So we're definitely going to need the grind here. Now it is worth noting that things like confusion are doubly dangerous here when you have to take 2 turns to hit your opponents. So it kind of makes sense that that would be one of the situations where we would actually struggle in this challenge. But now at level 43, I think we're ready to come back and try the rival again. We've gotten 2 damage rounding thresholds that should help us against that Magneton, but let's just see. Slash could be a killer. We really want to see like Swift or Poison Sting from this first Sand Slash. Instead, we get Sand Attack, which also could be the end of this run. We do manage to knock it out, but we're going to need good accuracy luck the rest of the way, and we've already missed once here on Cloyster and gotten confused. Still, we managed to knock it out. Out comes the Magneton. Skull Bash is the only play here, but with the accuracy drops, we're now struggling to knock this Pokemon out. Still, without a Sand Attack, we might have a decent chance here, so I'm going to reset and try this again. This time we just get Poison Sting, so we easily knock out the Sand Slash. Aurora Beam from Cloyster, that's exactly what we wanted to see. Now back to the Magneton where we go for the Skull Bash. At this point, this move is a 2-hit KO. Tackle doesn't do that much, so we easily get through. We can stick with Skull Bash, I think, here on the Kadabra, guaranteeing the KO. Now I'm going Sky Attack on Flareon, hoping that we do enough damage. We do not get the 1-hitter, and 2 Embers is enough to take us down to low health, and it just knocks us out. That was really close. But still, we obviously aren't consistent there, so I guess we're back to the grind. And in order to gain levels a little more efficiently, I'm actually going to come to the Fighting Dojo, since we've got Sky Attack that will be pretty good against all of these Pokemon. But more importantly, these Pokemon don't have moves like Confuse Ray or Sleep Powder or anything like that that causes us to have to run out and heal quite as much. And here against the Dojo Master, of course, he leads off with Hitmonlee. He goes X Attack, and we miss the first Sky Attack. Rolling Kick does decent damage, but we knock him out on the next turn. We get to level 45 right there. Now Hitmonchan goes for Fire Punch, but we get the 1-hit KO. So clearly, at least fighting types can't stand up to our moveset. We'll take our Hitmonlee just to humiliate the gym. Let's now make our way back to the rival to see if we can win at this point. So once again, we get Sand Attacked twice by the Sand Slash. We do manage to knock it out, but this is already probably not going to be a win because we're missing way too many attacks here. Now, clearly, that's pretty much the worst luck that we could get, so I will give this one more attempt here just to see if we get through with slightly better luck. Here we get a Sand Attack miss, so we actually get through on full health. We can move on to the Cloyster, which does get us in Clamp, but then we knock it out with a single Solar Beam. Back to the Magneton where we'll go the Skull Bash. We get Thunder Shock and Tackle, and another Tackle, so easy KO there. More Skull Bash on Kadabra as it goes Psybeam, and now it's all about this Flareon as we get to level 46. It goes Fire Spin this time, and we finally hit the critical hit Sky Attack and get the 1-hit KO. Keep in mind, we have a really good critical hit chance. It says 0% there because I was doing something else. Don't worry about that. We're actually more like a 20% chance to critical hit here. So yeah, this was a situation where clearly it was just about getting that crit or getting some some sort of luck to get through that one. And of course, after the rival, Jesse and James are a complete joke. We can make our way now to Giovanni. So against Giovanni, I'm going to use Sky Attack on the first Nidorino. We get poisoned by a Poison Sting. Now, I think Solar Beam is the best play on Persian. It's not going to be a one-hit KO, so I'll just go Skull Bash to try to finish it off here. We will go with the Solar Beam on the Rhyhorn as it goes Tail Whip on us. Now we've made it to Nidoqueen. Nidoqueen's going to be neutrally affected by everything, but it has higher defense. Granted, we have a higher attack stat, so I still think Sky Attack is the better play here. The Tail Whips are giving us badge boosts is the thing, but we get knocked out by a Body Slam. Still, I think this is a winnable fight. I'm going to try this just one more time. So Giovanni next attempt. Let's go Sky Attack. This time no poison, so we're already better than the last attempt. Sky Attack one-shots the Persian there. We'll go back to Solar Beam here on the Rhyhorn, getting the easy one-hit KO. And now on Nidoqueen, honestly, Solar Beam's probably the best play just because of the fact that it's going to be 100% accurate and a critical hit one-shots that Pokemon. So we do manage to get through Giovanni on the second attempt, and we're ready to move on in the game. And at this point, I honestly think our best play is to go up against Sabrina. She's going to flash us, but if we can land our physical moves, we should be able to get really good damage ranges on her Pokemon. So let's just try this out. So here against Sabrina, she leads off with Abra. Of course, I'm going to go Skull Bash here as she misses the flash. So we get an easy one-hit KO there. More Skull Bash here on the Kadabra. She X defense, but a crit cuts right through that. Now she X defense on Alakazam as we set up the Skull Bash, and we do about half there. We're hoping it doesn't recover, and we just barely missed the KO before it recovers there. So let's go Sky Attack instead. We managed the hit, so we beat Sabrina on the first attempt as we get to level 48. We're up to an hour, 4 minutes here. It's certainly not looking as good as before now with 19 optional battles and 12 resets, but we are progressing in the game. Still like 30 minutes almost since the last gym that we beat, so this run is definitely getting tougher as we continue on. So now, without taking additional optional battles, the only trainer to fight is Blaine. Let's see if we can now beat him now that we're at least closer to his level at level 48. He could still turn out to be pretty darn tough though. Now, of course, Blaine's AI is completely random in this version of the game, so we could get a really easy victory or we could get completely destroyed. He went Quick Attack there, but it still looks like it's going to take 2 hits after using Sky Attack on that Ninetales. Rapidash is out next. I'm going to go Sky Attack here. Let's just see what kind of damage we do, and this is going to take 2 hits yet again. He growls at us, which is also terrible because the only neutrally effective moves we have are all physical. Here on the Arcanine, we go for Sky Attack and get a critical hit after his Reflect. That was very nice, but then he crits us with a Flamethrower and we lose. So we had kind of good luck there. He got maybe lucky at the end. I'm honestly not sure, but I think this is a good spot to yet again grind out some additional levels. So back at level 50, let's try Blaney Boy again. This time it's still going to be 2 hits to knock out the first Ninetales. We'll still go for the Sky Attack on Rapidash. It missed its first Fire Spin there, and it misses a Takedown. So this is actually much better luck getting to the Arcanine. Takedown did a lot of damage though, and then it takes down again, and we had it down to about half health there. So really still not looking too great. Still, at this point, if we can get through Ninetales and Rapidash consistently, the most efficient level grinding is actually just to fight Blaine himself. So that's what I'm going to try to do. Now, I'm not going to use rare candies because this is really making me think we're going to need them for the league. So instead, I'm just going to grind it out here, trying to win. Burns are obviously terrible because they reduce our attack stat as well. So we might even lose this one just on the Ninetales. Here at level 54, we finally managed to get back to the Arcanine on good health. It gets us down to 1 HP with a takedown, but we finally knock it out. Man, that was rough. An hour, 16 minutes, and 35 seconds to get through that fight. We can see the score is dropping, now up to 36 optional battles to get through that fight. There's just no other way to get through. It's not consistent even at this level, and even if it were, it's definitely starting to show some weakness with this moveset. The fact that we have to take damage basically every turn from our opponents, and we're really susceptible to things like confusion, things like sleep, they really cause a major issue for this Pokemon as we go through this challenge. Still, we have made it to the final gym, so let's get into Giovanni's fight, just see if we can manage to win. Hopefully, Solar Beam is enough to get through his team here. I would be a lot more confident if this were Pokemon Red and Blue and he was using things like Poison Sting, but here we're going to be dealing with some Earthquakes, and that could be an issue. So Giovanni attempt number 1, we go for Solar Beam here. He tries Fissure even though we're faster than him. Good job, Giovanni. So we one-shot the first Dugtrio. This Persian, I think, is the only spot I'm going to go for the Sky Attack. It's still going to take 2 hits though. So I guess to Skull Bash to try to knock it out from there. Now Nidoqueen has higher defense than Special. So I think Solar Beam is the way to go here since it's neutrally effective at least. Still, it's going to take 2 hits here and we simply get knocked out by the Nidoqueen. Now, yet again, this is a spot where the best strategy is probably just to blackout grind against Giovanni himself, given the fact that he's going to give us at least decent XP with those first 2 Pokemon. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to put everything else into the PC and try to make my way through Giovanni by blackout grinding. This is to ensure that we get through at as low a level as we can. Yes, we are potentially going to get a luckier run, but still, we're going to end up going against the Elite Four later on. And if I were in this same situation at a solo run, this is what I would do. I would just blackout grind against Giovanni since he gives the best XP by far at this point in the game. At level 57, we level up to level 58 off the Nidoqueen, but this is our first time ever seeing Nidoking. He goes guard spec, so we get to do about half damage there with the Solar Beam, but it is not enough, and we are not able to progress in that fight. So more grinding is necessary if we're going to get through this one. And for once, Giovanni is actually looking like a major wall in a run. Usually it's only electric and fire types that get here and really struggle, but in this case, when he can hit you multiple times and set up things like Screech and Double Team, it's actually a pretty hard fight to get through. Now, of course, he could just go Tail Whip and Leer with the Nidos, and that would give us a chance at the Rhydon. We're going to have to see if he actually ever gives us that level of luck. That would be honestly pretty lucky to get through that way. Still, the other thing he can do is use Thunder, which we really like. So that allows us to get through the Nidoking at level 59. We have made it to Rhydon. We really do not want to see Earthquake here because we have really low defense. Rock Slide also just manages to knock us out in that one. Still, if we could hit a Solar Beam there, we would obviously win due to its 4 times weakness and the fact that Rhydon doesn't have great special, but that's a lot to ask when you have to survive a hit first. Here we do make it to the Rhydon again at level 60. He hits the Earthquake, we survive, and Solar Beam finally ends it. But man, oh man, that was rough. An hour and a half to get through Giovanni. The score is continuing to go down. Now 48 optional battles to get through that one. We have made it to Rival 6 in the league, but I'm kind of expecting that we're going to struggle a bit here. I'm not even going to pick up the rest of my Pokemon. I think that the Rival 6 fight could prove to be pretty inconsistent, and we're probably just going to need to blackout grind on that one too, and then just sell items to get full restores when we get to the league. Obviously, we haven't used any TMs, so we have plenty of items in the bag to sell. So let's just see if we can manage to actually get through this fight or not. So of course, the Rival leads off with Sand Slash. We will simply go for Solar Beam here and get the easy one-hit KO. Execute comes out next. I'm going to go for Sky Attack. It goes for Solar Beam, so we get through with no damage there. Now the Cloyster goes Supersonic, but we managed to hit the Solar Beam. That brings us to Magneton. I'm going to go for Skull Bash here. This is going to be a 2-hit KO at this point. We get confused, which is obviously pretty terrible, and we just keep hitting ourselves in confusion, and now we're paralyzed as well. We still managed to knock that Pokemon out. We're going to be able to go for Skull Bash to knock out Kadabra, but we're on very low health getting to Flareon. It goes Smog, then Leer though, and then Smog again. Finally, it knocks us out due to our paralysis, but this might be a winnable fight. Next attempt, we've been paralyzed and leech seeded though, and if we get this sort of luck, it's basically impossible to get through. Even the cloister takes us down. Next attempt, we get poisoned instead, which might be okay as long as we don't face a clamp. We do manage to get through there. Now we really don't want to be confused, and we're just hoping we can manage to take this magneton down, but it's getting critical hits on us. So yet again, I think we're just simply going to lose here. Still, I'd love to see what kind of damage we do with Sky Attack. We actually get the one-hit KO on the Flareon. So with 4 HP remaining and poisoned, we did manage to win. So that was kind of ridiculous and lucky at the end. Definitely not consistent. And we're going to black out here, but we did manage to get through the rival and all of the 8 gyms. So now the Elite Four is really going to be tough, I think. But let's just get there and start testing these things out. Now I will travel to the power plant before I go there just to get an extra rare candy and an extra PP up. And hopefully that will put us in a better position in order to get through this last section of the game. And now basically I'm going to theorize that Agatha is going to be tough no matter what we do. So really the only way that we're going to get through is when we're getting through both Lorelei and Bruno consistently without needing to save and heal and recover PP and anything like that. That's generally going to be my thesis here, is just that we should basically blackout grind on Lorelei and Bruno until we can get through them reliably and get to Agatha. Once we get to Agatha though, that's the point where I think we start thinking about using our rare candies in order to try to progress and saving between Elite Four members, since Agatha will just be random. And really, it's Lance and the champion that are going to pose the biggest threat in this, I think. Honestly, that champion fight might come down to getting to a really high level in order to get through. And this all kind of makes sense. You see, these 2-turn moves, on top of the fact that they cause us to take damage from our opponents, I always thought of them really as basically being at half their power on average, right? So while yes, Sky Attack is a 140 base power move, you can really think of it as hitting your opponent twice with 70 base power moves. The difference is just that if you would have one-shot your opponent with a 70 base power move, you actually just have to take 2 turns to knock them out with the 140 base power move, which is why it's generally considered to be pretty bad, and you generally won't see it on a solo challenge. Like, I don't think I've ever seen a flying type going through the game use that move, because in most cases you'd be better off just using fly and at least being semi-invulnerable for the first turn, unless you're in a situation where you specifically need the extra power and you're outspeeding your opponent. But it's just such a rare niche case that you would ever want to use that move over something else. Solar Beam gets a lot more play in solo challenges just because usually the Pokemon using Solar Beam also have a sleep move, allowing them to sleep their opponent and then just set up the Solar Beam basically without worrying about getting damaged. It's honestly one of the reasons why I didn't think that Sunny Day making Solar Beam not have a charge turn was ever really necessary, because every Pokemon that learns it, at least via level up, typically has a sleep move as well. So basically you're just as fine to set up sleep powder and then get, a couple hits. So I don't know, it just never made sense to me. Still, that is just my opinion. So for now, I'm just going to start grinding against the Elite Four. And here we're just going to go ahead with a dozen full restores. I have an extra PP up, so I'm just going to go ahead and slap that into Solar Beam, I think. And let's see if we can manage to win. But like I said, my plan is basically blackout grind against Lorelei and Bruno until I'm getting through both of them consistently. And then we will worry about Agatha and onward from there. So Lorelei attempt number 1, we're coming in at level 62. I think the only strategy here is Solar Beam, of course. We get an Aurora Beam from Dugong, but then we one-shot it at least with a crit there. We'll go Solar Beam on Cloyster as it confuses us, and then the Ice Beam did really good damage. We really don't like that supersonic hitting. We do manage to knock it out the next turn though. We get to level 63 as Slowbro comes out, we're no longer confused, and Solar Beam one-shots that Pokemon. Now Jinx, I'm gonna go Sky Attack as we get Ice Punched. We do manage to one-shot there, and Solar Beam on the Lapras, but its Hydro Pump knocks us out first. But like I said, I'll just keep the XP here since I think we're gonna need it later on anyway. And unfortunately, we get confused in the next attempt as well. So honestly, we might just be dealing with a situation where we need a run where we don't get confused by Cloister or Frozen Solid. Clearly, we're gonna lose in this one as well. This time we managed to knock out Cloister after it misses a clamp though, so we can move on to Slowbro with much better health and knock it out. I still think that Sky Attack is the play here against Jinx. It goes for Lovely Kiss, putting us to sleep, and now is using Thrash to do a lot of damage. Hits itself in confusion, but now Sky Attack does hit, knocking it out. We get to Lapras with better HP, 72 remaining. It goes for Body Slam. We go for Solar Beam. It is not a one-hitter here, so we go down yet again. So clearly this fight is not yet really that good. We don't have the Lapras in the one-hit KO range. If we could one-shot that Pokemon, I would feel really good about getting through this. But without the one-hit KO there, honestly, I think we need a lot of luck to win this fight. Of course, a critical hit will also allow us to get through, and we get a Blizzard miss from the Lapras this time, and another miss. So we finally get through at level 64. But yeah, that was not pretty. Still, I'm just going to heal up really quickly with a full restore and try to get through Bruno. And I assume we can beat Bruno. That's my assumption. But who knows? Maybe we're finally so bad that we can't even beat a hiker. Still, Bruno leads off with Onyx, and I accidentally went Sky Attack. Rip. Still, he used Dig, so we weren't going to hit him anyway, and he is using Dig intelligently to dodge our attacks. Finally, he goes the next defense, so we managed to knock out the first Onyx. We'll go Sky Attack here on Hitmonchan and get the easy KO. Out next, he's got Hitmonlee. We'll go for more of the same as he hits a Mega Kick. Now the second Onyx comes out. It goes Screech. We go Solar Beam to take it down. We've made it to Machamp. He misses the submission, and that allows us to get the win. Oh, Bruno. Even when he had a really good shot at getting through us, and he almost looked like he was playing intelligently, he just had to punt on that one. Still, we have made it through, so now we are to Agatha. I'm going to save the game right here, and this is where I will start thinking about using rare candies, because I expect this fight to be really tough. But let's see, maybe, just maybe, if we can land all the Sky Attacks, we'll easily win. But if we get confused and hit ourselves like 20 times, we're obviously gonna lose. So Agatha attempt number 1. I think Sky Attack is the only play here, given that it's the only neutrally effective move. It does one-shot the first Gengar after a Mega Drain. Golbat comes out next. I'm still just going to use Sky Attack. I know the accuracy is a little bit lower. We don't get the one-hit KO here. She Super Potions, but Skull Bash does the job, knocking it out on the next turn. Now Sky Attack on Haunter as she goes for Dream Eater while we're awake. She swaps Arbok for Gengar, allowing us to Sky Attack it down, and that means that now we only have to deal with Arbok. I'm still going to go Sky Attack. It goes for Glare. We are paralyzed, but still on good health. It's going for Wrap strats, though, and now I'm going to try to Skull Bash it down. Hey, we actually managed to get through Agatha on the first attempt. Are you kidding me? So with that, now I actually feel pretty good here. We've got a bunch of rare candies in the bag. We can go ahead and recover our PP, use a full restore, and get into the Lance fight. Now, I'm not sure about this fight. We may need to use those rare candies in order to get through it, but I'm perfectly fine with just slamming all the rare candies here if I absolutely have to. Still, let's come in one time at our current level. So here against the Gyarados. It has lower defense than special, so I am going to go for the Sky Attack here. It goes Dragon Rage. Sky Attack is going to be a 2-hit KO, so let's go Solar Beam after that to try to knock it out. Sure enough, it does go down. Now let's go for Sky Attack on the Dragonair. We get paralyzed by a Thunderbolt, but Sky Attack is a 1-hit KO there. Ice Beam from the second Dragonair, and now it's wrapping us. Sky Attack does knock it out, but we have like no HP as we get to the Aerodactyl. It goes Fly. It actually misses the Fly, but then Wing Attack knocks us out the next turn. So yeah, this one's clearly not happening at our current level. I'm going to start using some rare candies. So first, let's get up to level 70. That will get us a couple of damage rounding thresholds. Of course, it puts us at a higher level as well. Maybe this will affect the ranges a little bit in this fight. Now, since we know this is going to be a 2-hit KO on the Gyarados, I'm just going to go for Solar Beam twice here. He leers me 3 times, so we managed to get through that Pokemon just fine. And then I misclick on the first Dragonair. Obviously, we wanted to go for the Sky Attack, and now we're paralyzed and wrapped by the second Dragonair, and it Hyper Beams us down. Still, that was a bit of a misplay on my part, so I'm going to try this again at the same level just to see, because maybe I could have gotten through if I had actually used the right move. Hyper Beam from Gyarados is also not terrible because it's not doing that much damage. We managed to get to the Dragonair again. It does paralyze us though, so we knock it out the next turn. Hyper Beam from the Dragonair isn't that strong yet again, but being paralyzed, it's enough basically to guarantee that we're going down. So I think it's time to get more levels. And I'm just going to go ahead and get to level 75 here. We still have 2 rare candies in the bag, but yet again, this will give us a higher level that maybe makes this fight a bit more consistent. This time we managed to easily knock out the first Dragonair without getting paralyzed. We get wrapped by the second Dragonair, but then we knock it out with the Sky Attack. The only neutrally effective move against Aerodactyl is Solar Beam. It goes swift, but Solar Beam gets the 1-hit KO. We're to Dragonite. Let's go Sky Attack since it's the strongest move. We miss and we get burned, and we don't really have anything better than Sky Attack here. We get knocked out on that attempt. Still, that was kind of unlucky to miss the Sky Attack. We didn't even get to see the range, so I'm going to try this one again at the current level. And one thing that's clear here is that we basically have to hit all of the Sky Attacks. If we miss like even one, we're in really bad shape in this fight. Still, Sky Attack is 90% accurate. It should hit most of the time. So I think it's reasonable to reset when we just need that move to actually hit. So this time we managed to get through without paralysis, and we actually just one-shot the Gyarados with a critical hit Solar Beam. So we're to the Aerodactyl on really good health. It goes Wing Attack, allowing us to just knock it out. Now we're to Dragonite on green health. Let's see what the Sky Attack does. It does about half. He misses one of his attacks. Now he hits Blizzard, but we knock him out finally at level 75. Took a few attempts there, but still only 21 resets so far. Really not too bad. We didn't reset like a ridiculous number of times. And we're ready to go to the champion. We have 2 rare candies in the bag. We can get to level 77 here. Of course, if we fail at that point, we're going to have to just go back through the entire league and start grinding. But I'm going to try to go in at this level and see if we can manage to get the win. So here against the champion, we're going to go Solar Beam on the Sandslash. That's going to be an easy one-hitter. Now I think Sky Attack is the play on the Alakazam. We get the one-hitter as it goes for Recover. That was very lucky. We don't want to be Leech Seeded here if at all possible by this Exeggutor. Of course we get Leech Seeded, but we do manage to one-shot it with a Sky Attack. We've made it to the Magneton, where I think we just go Skull Bash here and hope that we can get the 2-hitter. Now we get paralyzed though, which is terrible. So while we do knock it out, we're on fairly low health with the Leech Seed on, and Cloyster's doing a lot of damage. We do manage to knock that Pokemon out, but then Quick Attack from Flareon ends us. So I'm just going to drop the 2 rare candies here and see if that is enough to get us through at level 77. Lucky 7s. Come on. Let's see if we can get it to go. So once again, Sandslash, we just need to get the 1 hit there. We once again get Recover from Alakazam, which is perfect. Please just go Barrage. Yes. Yes, Exeggutor went for Barrage. We one-shot it. Now we can go for Skull Bash. We still get paralyzed by Magneton, though. That is kind of terrible. We really want to see like Thunderbolt or Swift there. And he even goes for a full restore here. So we're probably losing this attempt, as he's just whittling us down and the paralysis keeps stopping us from attacking. Still, I think if we can get no paralysis, which, remember, it's only a 1 in 4 chance for him to use that Thunder Wave there, we might be able to get through. We get through to Cloyster, this time on half health, but paralyzed and Leech Seeded, and it misses a Clamp after that, giving us the chance to get back to Flareon. It goes Quick Attack, and quick attack, and we don't manage to move because we were fully paralyzed. That's only a 1 in 4 chance to not move, and I don't know if the sky attack will one-shot there or not. So I'm just going to have to reset again. This is basically the point in the game where I am going to reset a little bit liberally, just because honestly, I don't know the range. This time we get through Magneton on lower health, but with no paralysis, no leech seed. We get clamped by the cloister though. We do manage to knock it out. However, due to Screech, quick attack simply destroyed us. And we know that the Flareon will never use Reflect there because we are a Psychic-type Pokemon. Still, we just need a little bit better luck than that, and we can at least just see how much damage this Sky Attack will do against that final Flareon. This next attempt, we're basically on our best luck so far. We have no status whatsoever. We managed to get through to Cloyster on green health. Aurora Beam doesn't do that much, so now we will get to see the range on this final Flareon, assuming that we don't get a miss. And it is sure enough a one-hit KO with the Sky Attack there. So it's just a matter of getting through to that final Flareon with enough health and actually landing the Sky Attack. We had a couple attempts where we could have done it before and we were just paralyzed, so we couldn't get it to go. Still, this ended up pretty meh as a run. An hour 55 to beat the game, a score of 84.4. Of course, that comes down to the fact that we had 26 resets and 52 optional battles in order to beat the entire game. Really not great, considering that we've done plenty of runs where we had no TMs, no optional battles, and beat the game with fewer resets than this with some top tier Pokemon. This is pretty darn mid. But so now as the rival says, why did I lose? Well, because you didn't use the right attacks against us when we gave you the clear opening. So you clearly made plenty of mistakes, my friend. Still, we are the Pokemon League champion, in spite of the fact that we only used 2 turn moves. Had to get to a pretty high level to do it, but hey, the challenge is in fact completed, considering this was 0 DVs and minimum battles for a decent portion of the game. Really not as bad as I expected, but I'd be interested to hear, how did you guys think this was going to go at the beginning? Did it turn out the way that you actually thought it would? And how do you think this would compare to, say, a Pokemon that was only using wrapping moves for the entire game? Low accuracy, low power, but prevents your opponent from being able to hit you while it is in effect. Could be kind of interesting to see. I'm gonna predict right now that if I come back and do this with a Mew that is the greatest wrapper alive, with a moveset of, say, Bind, Wrap, Clamp, and Fire Spin, that we'll end up with a lot more resets, because there will be a lot more fights where it's like, man, if we only got the 75% chance to hit there, we would have won. But on the flip side, we could actually end up being significantly worse than this just because it's so inconsistent. Honestly, I don't know. I want to test it out and see. I hope you guys will stick around and see that one with me next time. But for now, our Truant Mew, he has done something. I want to give a massive thank you to the channel members. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I will see you in the next one. Later.